Imagine a society where the state ceases to exist and all transactions are voluntary and based on free markets. Intriguing, isn't it? Picture a world where individuals are free to form their own communities, engage in contractual relationships, and disputes are settled by independent arbitrators. Envisage a system where justice and property protection are privatized and the concepts of self-ownership and non-aggression are paramount. This is not a mere fantasy, but the crux of a political philosophy that draws inspiration from classical liberalism and Austrian economics. This is the essence of a political philosophy known as anarcho-capitalism. But where did anarcho-capitalism originate from? Who are its key proponents? This political philosophy, deeply rooted in the abolition of the state and establishment of a society based on voluntary trade and free markets, has some key figures to thank for its inception. Murray Rothbard, with his radical libertarian ideals, is often considered the father of anarcho-capitalism. David Friedman, in his seminal work The Machinery of Freedom, proposed a form of anarcho-capitalism, where law enforcement, courts, and all other security services would be provided by privately funded competitors rather than through taxation. Austrian economist Ludwig von Mises and political philosopher Robert Nozick also significantly contributed to its development, emphasizing the importance of individual rights and free markets. Ayn Rand, though not an anarcho-capitalist herself, influenced this philosophy through her defense of laissez-faire capitalism and individual rights in Atlas Shrugged. Anarcho-capitalism draws heavily from classical liberalism and Austrian economics, advocating for self-ownership, private property, and non-aggression. These thinkers laid the foundation for anarcho-capitalism, a philosophy that challenges the traditional role of the state. But what exactly does anarcho-capitalism advocate for? What are its key principles? Let's delve into the heart of anarcho-capitalism and explore its key principles. The first principle is self-ownership. This concept is straightforward. It simply means that each individual has absolute rights over their own body and life. You are your own master, and no one, including the state, can infringe upon this right. Now, this belief in self-ownership naturally leads us to the second principle, the non-aggression principle, or NAP. The NAP is the cornerstone of anarcho-capitalism. It posits that it is wrong to initiate force against another person or their property. In other words, you can't harm others or their belongings. This principle is central to maintaining a society where individuals' rights are respected and protected. However, how do we protect these rights without a state? This brings us to the third principle, the privatization of state functions. Anarcho-capitalists argue that many functions currently performed by the state, such as justice administration and property protection, can and should be privatized. They envision a society where private entities provide these services based on voluntary trade and free markets. This does not mean a chaotic society. Rather, it's a society where disputes are settled by arbitrators and enforcement agencies chosen by the parties involved. These principles, when combined, form the essence of anarcho-capitalism. They are predicated on the notions of voluntary trade, free markets, and the absence of a coercive state. Central to this is the idea that individuals, through their voluntary actions and agreements, can create a harmonious and prosperous society. So at its core, anarcho-capitalism is about freedom, non-aggression, and self-ownership. But it is equally important to understand what anarcho-capitalism isn't. Now, often there's a misconception that anarcho-capitalism advocates for chaos or lawlessness. However, that's far from accurate. It's not about endorsing disorder, but rather about fostering voluntary cooperation and self-governance. Anarcho-capitalism does not suggest an absence of rules, but rather stipulates that these rules should emerge from voluntary interactions instead of being imposed by a centralized authority. It doesn't mean every man for himself, but rather encourages individuals to form their own communities and engage in contractual relationships. Also, it's crucial to remember that anarcho-capitalism is not synonymous with selfishness or greed. It's about respecting the principles of self-ownership and non-aggression, values that promote mutual respect and peaceful coexistence. Furthermore, it's not a utopian ideology. Anarcho-capitalists acknowledge the potential challenges and complexities of a stateless society, but they see this as a preferable alternative to the inherent problems of state control. So anarcho-capitalism isn't a call for anarchy in the sense of chaos, but a call for a society based on voluntary actions and free markets. Understanding anarcho-capitalism can change how you view the world. This ideology, steeped in notions of self-ownership and non-aggression, challenges traditional views of state and society, urging us to envision a world where individuals freely form their own communities and relationships, bound by contracts rather than coercion. A world where justice and property protection are not monopolized, but privatized. If this concept intrigues you, we encourage you to delve deeper. Explore the works of Murray Rothbard, Ayn Rand, David Friedman, and Ludwig von Mises. Each of these thinkers offers unique perspectives on anarcho-capitalism, offering insights into its potential benefits and challenges. Let's recap on what we've covered. Anarcho-capitalism is an ideology that advocates for the abolition of the state and the establishment of a society based on voluntary trade and free markets. It draws inspiration from classical liberalism and Austrian economics. The non-aggression principle plays a central role in this ideology, emphasizing the importance of voluntary interactions and the avoidance of forceful or coercive actions. Remember, anarcho-capitalism is not a call for lawlessness or chaos, but rather a desire for a society where individuals are free to make their own choices and form their own communities without state interference. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of anarcho-capitalism. Remember to like, subscribe, and visit our website, bigpricedrops.com, for more enlightening content. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.